Hi, everybody. Hi, Katya. Hi, students. It's wonderful, Rudy. Hi. It's so great to see people I know and people I don't know. Thank you so much for coming here tonight and for being part of this wonderful experience that Lyndon has put together and that CPBS has organized, co-organized. So as Lyndon said, my name is Diya Abdo. I'm a professor in the Department of English and Creative Writing here at Guilford College. I am the daughter of refugees and an immigrant to this country, and it resonated with me, your experience, Lyndon, about visas, and of course the solution is to marry an American, which is what I did, and became a naturalized citizen through marriage. But I came here on an F1 visa as an international student. But before that, I was born and raised in Jordan to Palestinian refugee parents. And even though, and this is a touch point for me because it shows you that being a refugee is incredibly painful, even when you cross a border into a country right next door, where the language is the same, the food might be the same, and you still feel out of place, like an outcast. And so my family fled Palestine to Jordan, and which is where I was born and my siblings were born. And I grew up on my grandmother's stories about how much she missed Palestine, she missed her siblings, she missed her family, she missed home. There was a constant sense of yearning and longing that never went away. And until her last day on earth, all she wanted to do was to be able to go back to Palestine. And of course, she never did. She passed away in Jordan from cancer. My mother was only able to visit Jordan after she became a US citizen. And so it's really painful for folks who are dislocated from their homes. The way my mother describes it is, and my grandmother, is that they've lost their souls. They feel kind of dismembered, right? They've lost an important part of their bodies. Born in Jordan, I really was lucky because many Palestinian refugees who ended up in Lebanon, who ended up in Syria, still to this day live as stateless individuals in refugee camps for Palestinians. They're not allowed to work, they're not allowed to travel. The Palestinians who ended up in Jordan were naturalized as Jordanian citizens and really had a very different experience that allowed us to be able to travel and come to this country in pursuit of opportunity for me as a graduate student. And so, since I came here, I've really been very interested in literature, and that's what I teach. And I keep telling people I was minding my business as a professor, going to class, talking to students about poetry and novels and things like that, until 2015, when our world was rocked. I think many of us, as we were watching the news, and some of you might be too young to remember this, but that was the height of the Syrian refugee crisis, and we were hearing horrible things, as we do now every day, about boats overturning, capsizing, people drowning, just, every day in the news. Just recently, Libyan migrants being burned. So at that time in 2015, we were watching with horror as thousands and thousands of Syrian refugees were trying to get out of Syria and make their way to Germany. And we also saw the visual representation of that horror in the picture of the little boy Aylan Kurdi, who drowned with his mother and his brother on a boat that capsized. And that picture moved the world in a way that the numbers and the statistics hadn't. I mean, thousands of people were perishing, but there was that particular moment, that image that went viral, that quickened people's hearts, and governments and people reacted. The governments of the world reacted, especially in Europe. Germany accepted a lot of Syrian refugees. But I mention this because the inspiration for Every Campus a Refuge actually came from Pope Francis, who, in response to what was happening to Syrians and in response to that image, called on every parish in Europe to host a refugee family. And I was really struck by that idea of calling on small communities to do the work of welcome, to do the work of radical hospitality. He didn't say, governments, increase your quota. He looked to small communities and said, you do that work. You do that work of embracing the other, the stranger. That's the concept of radical hospitality. And I thought that's a remarkable idea. If only we could do something similar here. And that's when I started thinking, well, Guilford College is kind of like a parish. In fact, every college or university is like a parish in the sense that we are a small city, a small community. We have everything that you need to host people and to support them, and to provide welcome and integration support. And of course, we do this all the time. We do it with students, and why not do it with a refugee family? And you'll hear more, I'm sure, about this from the wonderful Leilani about the refugee resettlement history in Greensboro. But Greensboro is the gate city, and we have been, as Lyndon mentioned, welcoming refugees for decades, starting with the Montagnards, but then the Bhutanese, the Burmese, the Nepali, the Iraqi communities, and the Syrians, of course, the DRC community. And so it is a city of welcome in the sense that we have that rich diversity. It was really just a matter of figuring out how to engage and involve Guilford College in enacting this radical hospitality using our material resources. And so when I tell the story, people laugh because they think it can't have been that easy, but it really was that easy. I walked into Guilford College's president's office during her office hours, and I said, Jane, I would like a house on our campus to host refugees, newcomers who come to Greensboro. And she said, yes. And every time I give this talk at a college or university, they're like, what? We can't even get an appointment with our college president. Quaker schools. And so that's really a very important piece of this, is that Guilford as a Quaker institution that lives up to its values, especially of community, but also stewardship, stewarding our resources for actions that are just and right and good and that are about the community. Our connection, of course, and our positionality as part of the Underground Railroad. It's kind of that that legacy is in our DNA. And another thing that I love to mention is that I grew up Muslim, and the Arabic word for campus is haram, which literally means sanctuary. And so it's, when we think about campuses, we do think of them, in fact, as safe places, right? They're safe for the students who come here, hopefully. And when that fails, we're held deeply accountable for that. And so there was something that sort of the confluence of all of those things, our Quaker tradition, the Greensboro that we know and love as a welcoming city, really made it possible for something like this to grow and start on a campus like Guilford College. And we've been hosting refugees on Guilford's campus for the last 7 years. We started in 2016. I'd like to just a shout out to my friend Sheldon over there from Bikewala, one of our first partners. Sheldon collects and fixes bikes all over Greensboro. And whenever we host a refugee family, we turn to Sheldon, who provides us with bikes for everyone in that family. And it really helps with transportation and mobility. So the point is that every campus of refugees really is about an ecosystem. It's about an ecosystem. It's about partnerships. It's not just about Guilford College. It's about our resettlement agency. It's about new arrivals. It's about Faith Action. It's about Bikewala. It's about CPPSCT. It's about our volunteers and our students who make up that system of support for a newcomer family who really need all the support they can get. Some of the interesting and horrifying facts about refugee resettlement in this country is that refugees receive a one-time stipend of $1,000 upon arrival. That's it, $1,000. It's supposed to be for rent, for food, for furnishings, for everything else. Refugees are also expected to pay back the plane ticket that brings them here. So if you're 10 people in a family, we've actually hosted an 11-member family before, that's about $15,000 that you have to pay back to your resettlement agency over time. And then, of course, there's the expectation of self-sufficiency within 90 days. So refugees are expected to achieve full self-sufficiency, which means pay your rent, get a job. And really what that means is that folks are forced to take the first job that they're offered to be able to achieve that self-sufficiency within 90 days. So to be able to say, you know what, take some time to rest on this campus, a few months, rent-free, utilities are available, access to college facilities and amenities, and a community of support that is built by these incredible partners in that ecosystem goes a long way for a softer landing and a stronger beginning. So we've been doing this work for 7 years, and we've also expanded to other campuses across the country. So now we have about 14 chapters in Pennsylvania, in California, in New York, in Georgia, in Florida, in Oklahoma. And the goal is really for every campus to become a refuge. That's why it's called Every Campus a Refuge. And really what we aim to do is make sustainable ecosystems of refugee resettlements all over this nation, with higher education institutions at the center of those ecosystems, sort of leveraging those partnerships. Am I good on time? Good? Okay. So I will stop here, though, and just welcome you to Guilford and welcome you to this event, and happy to answer any questions afterwards. And I look forward to chatting with folks at the tables later on.